What's up everyone and welcome back to the World History Channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. 15 unusual and surprising details about Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist minister and civil rights activist, is best known for using civil disobedience and nonviolence to fight for African Americans' equal rights and opportunities. He opposed segregation and marched on Washington, D.C., to deliver his famous "I Have a Dream" speech in 1963, and the following year, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for opposing racial inequality through nonviolent resistance. Tragically, James Earl Ray killed Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. He was then posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal, and, in 1986, Martin Luther King Jr. Day became a federal holiday on a legal basis. However, you may not be aware of many other fascinating facts about MLK. From his reaction to the death of his grandmother to his unusual honeymoon and penchant for cigarettes, MLK's life and childhood was full of monumental events. He attempted suicide when he was 12 years old. King made the decision to attend a parade when he was 12 years old rather than staying at home and watching his 6-year-old brother Ad slip down a banister in his absence and ran into their grandmother, knocking her out. She then died after suffering a heart attack. Despite the fact that his grandmother's unconsciousness had nothing to do with her heart attack, King blamed himself for her death. King attempted suicide by jumping out of the second-floor window of his family's home, overcome with grief. His father later recalled that King was troubled for many days following the passing of his grandmother and had difficulty sleeping. He fell in love with a white cafeteria worker. King dated a German woman by the name of Betty in the 1940s while he was attending seminary school in Pennsylvania. Betty was a cafeteria worker. His friends urged him to break up with Betty, pointing out that his father would not approve of their interracial relationship, nor of his son dating someone below his station. According to David Garrow, author of Bearing the Cross, King was heartbroken after he split with Betty and had a difficult time getting over their relationship. However, King's father did not ultimately like his son's wife Coretta Scott either. He had hoped Martin Jr. would marry opera singer Matilda Dobbs. Working at a tobacco farm opened his eyes to racial equality. King got a summer job harvesting tobacco near Hartford, Connecticut, when he was a teenager. As a teen from a middle-class Southern family, he quickly learned that not everyone in the United States treated African Americans as second-class citizens. In a letter to his father he wrote, "We saw some things I had never anticipated seeing on our way here. After we passed Washington there was no discrimination at all. The white people here are very nice. We sit wherever we want and go wherever we want to." He added in a note to his mother, "I never thought that a person of my race could eat anywhere, but we ate in one of the finest restaurants in Hartford. And we went to the largest shows there." Additionally, his mother was killed. Alberta Williams King was shot to death while playing the organ at a church 6 years after King was killed. In 1974, a man named Marcus Wayne Chunault Jr. stood up in the front pew of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, pulled out 2 pistols, and began firing. He had intended to kill King's father, but killed Alberta instead because she was closer to him. She died in the same church where her son preached nonviolence. Initially, he was given the death penalty, but King's family opposed the death penalty and levied for him to receive life imprisonment instead. He was smoking a cigarette when he was shot. Despite the fact that King was known to smoke frequently, there are few photographs of him smoking. On the day he was assassinated, he was on the balcony of his hotel smoking a cigarette. He actively hid the habit for 2 major reasons. First, there was a social stigma attached to the habit, particularly since he was a minister. Second, he didn't want his children to see him smoke and take up the habit themselves. After his passing, Reverend Kiles allegedly tried to hide the fact that King was smoking when he died by taking the pack of cigarettes out of his pocket. Prior to his assassination, a letter opener nearly killed him a decade earlier. During a book signing in 1958, a woman named Isola Ware Curry approached King saying, "I've been looking for you for 5 years," and then stabbed him in the chest with a letter opener. Doctors spent a labor-intensive 3 hours trying to remove the instrument, as it was positioned dangerously close to King's aorta, and even the slightest slip would have killed him. He began college at 15 years old. King did so well in school that he was able to skip grades 9 and 12, and was even accepted into college as a freshman at age 15. He attended Morehouse College in 1944, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. Initially, King had no interest in becoming a Baptist minister, even though his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather had all been called to the ministry. However, Benjamin E. King was persuaded to finish his work with the ministry by Morehouse President Mays. He also received his undergraduate degree in sociology, and went on to obtain his second bachelor's degree in divinity from Crozer Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania. And by the time he was 25, he had attained his Ph.D. in systematic theology from Boston University. In a funeral home, he and Coretta spent their wedding night. King and his wife Coretta spent their wedding night together in a funeral home, but not because someone died. Because African American couples were not eligible for honeymoon suites in hotels in 1953, a friend offered King and Coretta a celebration evening at his funeral home. He was pulled over 29 times. King was detained numerous times during his many years of social activism. In fact, he was sent to jail a total of 29 times for various acts of civil disobedience as well as other fabricated charges. One situation, which occurred in 1956, resulted in his being sent to jail in Montgomery, Alabama, for driving only 5 miles over the speed limit. He applied for a permit to carry a concealed firearm. In the 1950s, King applied for a permit to carry a concealed weapon, this being before he had begun advocating for passive resistance. He had a collection of firearms for self-defense, and armed guards frequently surrounded him to safeguard his family. One of King's colleagues, Glenn Smiley, even referred to King's home as being an arsenal. King had good reason to fear for his life, as the Ku Klux Klan in Alabama had a target on his head, and he was threatened daily. His home and churches in Montgomery had even been bombed. After his death, he did not leave any money to his children or wife. When King died, he did not have a will and did not have any money set aside for his 4 children to go to college. He wrote 4 books, received more than $50,000 for winning the Nobel Peace Prize, and made money through his ministry and speaking engagements, but he did not save any money for his wife or children. Instead, King gave any money he made to the civil rights movement because, as a minister, he thought it was necessary to swear to live in relative poverty. He loved Star Trek. King can be credited with persuading Nichelle Nichols to stay on as Uhura on Star Trek following the end of Season 1. Nichols later recalled King's desire for her to remain on the show not only due to the fact that she was a black woman playing a main character on television, but also due to the fact that her character wasn't written based on popular stereotypes. The other crew members regarded Nichols as an equal because of her intelligent character. In public speaking, he received a C. While attending his first year of seminary school, King surprisingly got a C in public speaking. However, it wasn't because he was bad at talking in front of people. In fact, his father said that King was one of the best public speakers he'd ever encountered. By the time he graduated from seminary, King had managed to raise the grade to an A. He also was the student body president and valedictorian. He predicted his own demise. On April 4, 1968, King was shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee. He spoke to a group of people at Mason Temple Church the night before he died, telling them that he might not get to see the promised land with them. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I have no worries whatsoever. I don't worry about any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He won a Grammy Award. No, King did not possess a secret singing ability that we know of. However, following his death, King won a Grammy Award for Best Spoken Word Album in 1971. He received the honor for his album Why I Oppose the War in Vietnam. On it he said, "Now let me start by saying that I see this war as unfair, evil, and pointless. I preach to you today on the war in Vietnam because my conscience leaves me with no other choice. The time has come for America to hear the truth about this tragic war. Martin Luther King Jr., a towering figure in American history, is celebrated for his pivotal role in the civil rights movement, his unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance, and his profound impact on the quest for racial equality. Although many people are familiar with his illustrious "I Have a Dream" speech and his award of the Nobel Peace Prize, there are numerous lesser-known aspects of his life that provide deeper insights into his character, experiences, and lasting legacy. Birth, name, and early identity. Born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr. was originally named Michael King Jr. His father, Michael King Sr., changed both his and his son's names to Martin Luther King in honor of the German Protestant reformer Martin Luther after a transformative trip to Germany in 1931. A legacy that would be intertwined with the pursuit of equality and justice began with this decision. Academic excellence and early leadership. King, who was exceptionally intelligent, skipped the 9th and 11th grades and entered Morehouse College at the age of 15 in 1944. Graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology in 1948, he continued his education at Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, where he earned a Bachelor of Divinity degree in 1951. King went on to earn his doctorate at Boston University, where he graduated in 1955. His academic career was marked by leadership roles, such as his time as Crozer's student body president. 3. A near-fatal stabbing. In 1958, during a book signing in Harlem, King was approached by Isola Ware Curry, who stabbed him in the chest with a 7-inch letter opener. The blade narrowly missed his aorta, and doctors later stated that had he sneezed, the blade could have punctured the artery, leading to his death. King survived the attack and, from his hospital bed, expressed forgiveness towards his attacker and reiterated his commitment to nonviolence. The National African American History Museum. 4. Arrests and imprisonments. Throughout his activism, King was arrested approximately 30 times. These arrests were often for acts of civil disobedience, such as participating in sit-ins and protests against segregation and injustice. One notable instance was his 1963 arrest in Birmingham, Alabama, where he penned the influential Letter from Birmingham Jail, articulating the moral imperative of nonviolent resistance. 5. Advocacy beyond the South. While King is often associated with the southern United States, he recognized that racism and segregation were national issues. He actively campaigned in northern cities like Chicago and Boston, addressing urban poverty, housing discrimination, and police brutality. His efforts in the North underscored his belief that the struggle for civil rights transcended regional boundaries. 6. Peace Prize from Nobel. In 1964, at the age of 35, King became the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize at that time. He was awarded $54,123, which he donated entirely to support the civil rights movement. This gesture highlighted his dedication to the cause over personal gain. 7. Personal tragedy and resilience. At the age of 12, King experienced a profound personal tragedy when his grandmother died unexpectedly. He had been absent from home, and upon returning, he blamed himself for her death. Overcome with guilt, he attempted suicide by jumping out of a second-story window. Fortunately, he survived and, with the support of his family, overcame this dark period, which deeply influenced his later empathy and commitment to justice. 8. Family legacy of activism. King's commitment to social justice was mirrored by his family's activism. His mother, Alberta Williams King, was tragically shot and killed in 1974 while playing the organ during a church service. The shooter, Marcus Wayne Chunault Jr., had intended to kill King's father but struck Alberta instead. Despite the personal loss, the King family opposed the death penalty, advocating for life imprisonment for the perpetrator. 9. Advocacy for labor rights. Beyond racial justice, King was a staunch advocate for labor rights. He supported the 1968 sanitation workers' strike in Memphis, Tennessee, where workers demanded better wages and working conditions. King's involvement in the strike underscored his belief that economic justice was integral to the broader struggle for civil rights. 10. recognition and influence worldwide. King's philosophy of nonviolence and his advocacy for human rights resonated globally. He was influenced by global movements for justice through correspondence with international leaders. His efforts contributed to the global recognition of the interconnectedness of struggles for freedom and equality. 11. Personal struggles and vulnerabilities. Despite his public persona, King faced personal challenges, including bouts of depression and the immense pressure of his leadership role. King, according to his biographer Jonathan Eig, was naturally wary of conflict and frequently found it difficult to resolve disagreements, even with close allies. This aspect of his personality added complexity to his leadership, but also highlighted his human side. 12. Cultural and performing engagement. King had a profound appreciation for culture and the arts. He was an avid reader, a lover of music, and had a profound respect for literature and poetry. His speeches often reflected literary influences, and he believed that the arts played a crucial role in the movement by inspiring and uniting people. 13. Commitment to education. Education was a cornerstone of King's